We are going to walk through a live RFP that's available on Sam.Gov as a small business set-aside. I'm going to walk through it with all of you here as if I were considering bidding on it. So I'm going to go through this no different than if I were bidding on something. So let's get into it as I share my screen. So GovCon winners, this opportunity is available on Sam.Gov. Happy to announce, I guess some changes have been made because while in Chrome, attachments show up. Yay! Before they didn't show up. Also, I want to make note that you do not need to sign in to see this. This is for virtual producing training. When I see something like this, if there's a blue button, I click it to see. It was published 18th. It was updated on the 21st. This is for Food and Drug under Health and Human Services. It's due April 15th. So I don't see any issues here. You have about a month or so. Doesn't seem like it's kind of loaded for somebody else. Not at all. It's a total small business set aside. And the NAICS code is 611430. Here is a long description. When I see a description like this, I'm looking for things such as very specific course names or theories, things that like are flags that, okay, maybe there's a particular vendor who offers this that they're kind of referencing, right? I don't see anything like that. They have the normal Gov speak. They talk about successful training, what that entails, virtual training, that is. They also detail what they're looking for in the instruction. Okay, all of this is very reasonable. Nothing here is sounding any alarms. Then what I do is download the documents. So here you have the contact information. I also like to make sure that this page matches this page because it said it's a small business set aside. You want to make sure it's a small business set aside. Definitely want to do that and check the due date, because if there's any type of discrepancy, you want to make them aware of it so that you're not penalized because there was just a typo or something. So 4/15, 4/15, perfect. Now, the next thing that I will commonly do is I will search the document to find out what the evaluation criteria is or are. It's very important. This really plays a huge role in your go, hey, we're going to bid, no go, no, I don't want to bid decision. This is lowest price, technically acceptable. Sometimes it's also called lowest cost, technically acceptable. So knowing that, it's like, okay, well, this kind of makes sense. They're looking for virtual training. We're going to dig deeper into it. They're looking for the training over the period of 2 years, and we'll find out for how many people and how often. But it makes sense. Because think about how we consume training. We go to YouTube, right? We go to Udemy. We go to some place online where you either receive it for free or maybe you pay $59.99 and you're like, oh my gosh, that class is amazing. It was better than my college course on that. So why would the federal government be any different? They're not going to want to spend hundreds and thousands of dollars on something in which they also know you could probably get online for free at a low cost. So that is why your business model is extremely important in this federal government space. So back to this. Now that we know lowest priced, okay, I'm still in. I already am thinking about all of the expenses. Am I still able to make my 20 to 50% profit? That is always my range. Totally could do that. So let's dig deeper to see if there are any flags or any other things where, I'm not really interested, okay? We see here on page 3, there are 2 CLINs, meaning there would be 2 line items. So you would have a price for CLIN 1 and a price for CLIN 2. Your price for CLIN 1 could be lower or higher than the price for CLIN 2, but basically you're telling the government, here's what I'm charging for what we're gonna find out that they want. You can also see this as a very brief solicitation, which I like. This training is for their OTED department within the Office of Regulatory Affairs, which is already telling me these are very important positions. These are probably very busy people. So how are we going to balance getting very busy people to take this course? Just something I'm thinking about. I'm already thinking about course enrollment, things of that nature. And then they give some more details, some background, which is helpful because you can use this information to really color your proposal. I like to scroll down to look at the objective and the scope. So they're saying to you, provide skilled instructional design services necessary to facilitate and deliver meaningful training virtually and to adjust their current plan and model, etc., etc., etc. Got it. No red flags so far. They also list that you need to provide basically everything. You'll see later on, they also, which here is under task, they even mention which platforms you can use, that you're going to need to train up to 95 students, aka employees. You can use an off-the-shelf interactive course, and you are able to use one of these systems, Adobe, Zoom, or other platforms that they may approve. Makes sense. Again, nothing here is sounding off any kind of alarm. They're also sharing that you're going to need to provide feedback, identifying their strengths, their weaknesses, some type of recommendations. You need to deliver these virtually. You're also going to need to record and provide it for future use. So for some people, I'm not doing that. I don't want to record my training and hand it off to my client. Okay, then no go. I'm still go. There's nothing here that I find unreasonable or that we couldn't do and still make a profit. They also talk about creating and delivering job aids. You have to disseminate the information, including evaluations and the student resource list. So far, kind of taking it back, based on what we see so far, you must train 95 people. That's what you must do. You may use Zoom, Adobe Connect. You're going to need to provide the student materials, the student handbook. It needs to be interactive. You're going to need to provide feedback. You're going to need to provide evaluations. And most important, based on my 10 plus years of experience, you are definitely going to really need to focus in on registration and maintaining the roster. I know this highlighted section talks about issuing the materials, but you need to make sure up to 95 are trained, because for something like this, because it's lowest cost technically acceptable, you're going to want to charge per person. That's the best way to be competitive in this space. At the same time, they need to make sure everyone took it, because this statement of work states that every single person must be able to take this live. They need to take it live live virtually. So how you're going to know who took it and didn't take it? And you're going to need to work with them to learn who's responsible for that. Is it you, the vendor? You're going to have to send out reminders and coordinate schedules. Are they doing it in the OTED department? These are key questions to ask. So I believe the Q&A period already closed, but if it hadn't closed, I would ask them questions like that, because you want to know, because then it's starting to add in more resources and it could potentially shrink your profit. Maybe you're like, I'm the only one doing it. I have no problem. All profit the entire effort is all profit because I'm the only one. Okay, cool. These are just things to think about. The other thing to keep in mind with this is that all of your training must be 508 compliant. And there are different plugins for Adobe Connect and for Zoom to really help you with this. There's also a program called JAWS, which they mention that you can run your slide deck through to make sure it meets all of the requirements. They also are very specific. They identify the font you must use, the size of the text, the size of the headers. Also, they don't click here. They want you to say more information about how to be engaging across time zones may be found here. That's what they're looking for. So again, you must ask yourself, go, I'm cool with that. No go, I don't want anything to do with this. And you should ask yourself these types of questions, regardless of the work. If it's for hotels, if it's for storage, if it's for trucking, if it's for janitorial, if it's for IT, these are questions you must ask yourself time and time again. And for those of you that are super brand new and wonder, what questions do I ask? Sometimes you just learn by doing it. It's putting in all of those years as well as having a mentor. And that's why I'm here, y'all. I'm here to help you so that you can avoid many of those horrible potholes I ended up in. My goodness. So these are things to ponder. The other thing that's kind of cool about this, just to highlight again, that it's for 2 years. So it provides a lot of opportunities, and I'll explain that in a second. They really go deep into the evaluation factors, especially given as lowest priced. But I think it's awesome that they've done that. And so when you set up your response, you're gonna have your cover page, you're going to have a cover letter, your table of contents, and then about us. Next would be factor 1. And you would address all of these. You would do that all the way down to 8. Then you would have a separate section, factor 2, past performance, where you would talk about your past performance in this area. And perhaps you've provided this service or you've purchased the off-the-shelf training and facilitated Pepsi, for instance. There you go. You would put that there. This third section is pricing. Commonly, pricing is submitted as an Excel sheet, or because they list it here. I mean, I would do an Excel sheet personally, but you could pull this page from the PDF, type in your price there in each of the boxes, and label that pricing. The other kind of trick is if you are on the GSA schedule, you're going to want to mention that. You can put it right there in your pricing, either in the Excel sheet, in your cover letter, on your cover page, if you pull out the PDF, you want to highlight that because they may be more apt to want to go that route, especially if you meet the requirement of being lowest price. So it's great just to mention that. Plus, it goes toward maintaining your GSA schedule because you must have $25,000 of contract awards within 2 years of being on the schedule. They also provide information as far as asking questions. When something is in an RFP stage, you just can't call them up and email them, hey, what's going on? I have some questions. You have to follow the instruction. So while the window has closed, this is telling me I can anticipate question and answers will be released soon because this isn't due until April 15th. And they also have shared that they want 2 separate volumes. So going back to this section, I gotta rewind what I shared. Now that we have more information, you would have volume 1, cover page, cover letter, table of contents, technical, and you would just go right into it, which you could also put your past performance in there too. Let's just double check. Yeah, they put technical. And then volume 2 is business. Under business, usually I would include about us. You're going to need to complete the SF form here, the 1449. If there are any amendments, you're going to need to include those. You may need to include your reps and certs. And those are all things I would include in the business volume, as well as about you if I didn't already state that. This is also very important to note. I don't see this often, but this is important because if the FDA has taken the step to write this all out, that means other agencies may be thinking this too. Don't send them some type of Excel product with a bunch of macros. I mean, I get it. You're like, oh, you click here and it does this and it does that. And you said to make your life easier, Kizzy. Didn't you say that? Yes, but it's federal government. They have a heightened level of security and concern when it comes to technology. So providing them documents with macros and weird things, no, do not do that. Please do not do that. On top of it, what if the macros just don't work and your pricing is altered because of a macro issue? So I wouldn't do it. I would never include any macros ever in a proposal unless you really know the agency or you know the client and it's a recompete. Otherwise, my goodness, make their life easier. Don't do it. And if FDA is thinking it, other agencies are too, because they wrote it out. They also indicate they're not going to pay you for the preparation of this. A lot of this is kind of standard information that's on here, but it's important to highlight because maybe this is new to you. Then they have the contact information here. So perhaps at this point in the video, you're like, oh my gosh, wow, I'm out. I don't want anything to do with this. Or maybe you're like, yes, I'm in. This is perfect. Remember, they said it could be commercial off the shelf, which is awesome. Something else I want to highlight. So if you decide, hey, no go, I don't want anything to do with this, at least you have learned that this agency procures training and that they are interested in kind of bettering, improving their training. So overall, all of their training offerings are more engaging. So perhaps if you're in the training area or arena, you could request a capability brief with them after the fact, after the close of this opportunity, to see if maybe they're going to have an opportunity for some type of curriculum development effort, or you could at least just talk to them. Reach out to the contract specialist, Miss Lee, or Ms. Bryant, the contracting officer, to see if you can connect with this OTED group, because why not? Why not? Also, you could go to the FDA small business website to see if they have any upcoming events. You could reach out to the small business rep with the FDA to see if he or she has a contact with OTED. Again, I would do all of this after the close of this date so they don't think that you're trying to manipulate this opportunity, but to see if you can get connected to this OTED group. So what's key to remember when it comes to these opportunities is even if you decide, you know what, I don't want to bid on it, there's still very valuable information there. And this is all from Sam. Just something there on Sam. So subscribe, comment below, have that notification bell there and ready. Don't forget, you are amazing. You're a GovCon winner, and this isn't always easy, but of course you can do it. If I did it, you can do it. Why? You know, because everything is possible. Until next time.